Hiroshima is a city with many rivers. Army workers on rafts were using something like a rake made of green bamboo to pull floating corpses out of the river onto wooden boards. 4 men shouldered the bodies and brought them up out of the river. They made some space in a burned-out site. Corpses were placed in a line in the space. Oil was sprinkled over them. Then the bodies were set alight, one after another. The remains from one body amounted to a small pile of ashes no bigger than one's palm and were placed on a burned roof tile. On the tiles, descriptions of the deceased's gender, estimated age, approximate height, and so forth were written. The remains placed on roof tiles were arranged in rows. Those who were searching for their families and relatives went there to search the remains. But all they could find were piles of ashes because the bodies had been burned. There was no way they could identify their relatives from ashes alone. In my case, the following month, I started to bleed. It was something like a period, but it didn't stop. It continued for over 30 to 40 days. After stopping for 4 or 5 days, it began again. This continued for 3 to 4 months. On top of that, I started to feel pain in my bones. I was always saying, "My bones hurt." There was a project called Hiroshima-Nagasaki Peace Flight, organizing a delegation of survivors to visit the U.S., comprised of Japanese men and women who were exposed to the A-bombs. They wanted to include one non-Japanese member in the delegation. The offer was made to me. In the summer of 1987, I visited the U.S. as a member of the delegation. We brought along with us a collection of signatures against nuclear testing. At the time, Mr. Araki was the mayor of Hiroshima. We were also entrusted to bring his mayoral appeal. When we visited the U.S. State Department, a young official who was handsome enough to be a movie star came out to see us. He unfolded a metal chair abruptly and seated himself on it. Crossing his long legs, he sat at ease in a lordly manner. One delegation member, Reverend Hasegawa, a Catholic clergyman, conveyed to him requests from the hibakusha. But the U.S. official only tried to justify the bombings. It was not a political negotiation. It was not a claim from A-bomb survivors asking for damage compensation. All we were asking for was that the Earth and humanity be saved from the tragedy of nuclear weapons. As we were listening to the official, we were all thinking in dismay, what is this man talking about? Even though we were annoyed, we continued to listen. Toward the end, he said, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were by no means wrong. They facilitated the swift end to the war and saved the lives of at least 200,000 U.S. soldiers. When he said this, I felt all my hairs stand on end in indignation. Not physically, but that is how I felt in my heart. I was not able to protest nor speak up against him. All I could do was cry. I sobbed convulsively, to the point that it became difficult even to breathe. After this experience, as I began taking part in various peace movements, I realized that in the past I used to think peace activities could only be conducted by special, extraordinary people. I used to think that ordinary people could not get involved. But I realized as long as you have a purpose, you can do something. Also, out of my desire to repay my debt of gratitude for having survived, I started to relay to others my experiences of the atomic bombing. I would like people to be conscious of the fact that they can take action to develop themselves. Now, living in a time of relative peace and security, I'm sure it's possible. As long as you develop your awareness, there is no limit in developing yourselves. I want everyone to do what they can.